Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Kingdom of Rizia. So, in the last episode, we managed to work out a somewhat deal with Waylon up here. If I can get this thing to move, there we go. But yeah, I managed to go ahead and get a deal with Waylon going where we bought some things, they bought some things, and hopefully we can turn around and get our territory back. We also, however, struck not quite a deal either, but we did work on trying to renegotiate the mitts in Morella, so we have that coming up. We also got a late night call from Chancellor Hagel in order to turn around and get him to, well, get us to side with him. I don't know if I'm going to. This is still a bit of a back and forth thing because I need money. I do need money, so I don't know if I'm going to renegotiate it completely, but I need my budget. So that's kind of the main thing here because I don't have any money coming in. I don't have any money coming out. So that's for me, not having any money going out is a win. I would take that at the very least, but I really need some money coming in. So I would prefer to have things be more profitable than less profitable if I can help it. So there's that. We do have, well, these are old. I forgot. That's because I turned around and, of course, I'm loading this from a different, well, I'm loading this from a checkpoint. So I have no controls of the actual saves yet since I haven't beat the DLC. I'm assuming that once you beat it, it has the same effect as torpor mode where you can just kind of save wherever. Or I was not paying attention at all in the beginning and I could have just saved anyway because I already beat the game. But anywho, let's go to the Republic of Morella and let's begin these trade negotiations. I had been invited to Gavet, the capital of Morella, for a meeting with Prime Minister Alma Sultana. Her government had expressed its dissatisfaction with the result of the Meftium International Trade Zone nationalization vote and demanded a renegotiation of the agreement. My security detail and I exited our motorcade outside the gates of the People's Gardens, Gavet's largest park. Originally known as the Imperial Gardens, it had served as the private strolling grounds for the Emperor of Meridia, then for the Reinhardt family during the Volgish occupation. When Morella reconquered Gavet in 1923, the vast green area was open to the public. Once immaculately landscaped with imported Volgish trees and flowers, the park was replanted with native Morellan flora and allowed to grow wild. Children played hide and seek in the tall grasses and raced each other up the conical hill in the center. Alma Sultana greeted me inside the gates, accompanied by only a small security retinue. Welcome back to Morella, Mr. Torres. It's good to see you again, Madam Prime Minister. And you, Mr. Torres. We ended up on a promising note the last time we saw each other. I hope we can continue that today. She motioned for me to follow her. A barely marked path led into a dense bamboo grove. We walked in, shadowed by our guards. This was all planted after the Vogs left. Amazing how fast it grows. As we kept walking, I noticed the corner of a wooden object peeking out from behind the stalks. Take a closer look. I stopped and pushed the stalks aside. It appeared to be a memorial plaque, carved in traditional Volgish style. On it was a square-jawed man, Axel Reinhardt's exact double, triumphantly hoisting his sword atop the park's central hill. An inscription below it read, "In commemoration of the brave deeds of Otto Reinhardt, Viceroy of Palais and loyal servant of the Vogels Empire. The taking of Gavet, our punishment for siding with the wrong house in your war of succession." I understand keeping things around. What a tragedy. Our houses should have found a peaceful compromise instead of dragging other countries into battle. I agree, with the caveat that Meridia wasn't dragged. They saw their alliance with the Zaro family as a way to gain power over Rizia. Losing territory to Vogsland was fair enough punishment. I'm surprised that Morella doesn't still bear a grudge against the Vogs. The current administration has made an admirable attempt to atone for the Vogels Empire's misdeeds. Which doesn't mean I trust Chancellor Hagel without reservations, of course. And the Reinhardts, what do you think of them? Believe me, there's no love lost between Morella and the Reinhardts, but we're happy to let them keep their little piece of land, as long as they stay there. At the end of the path, we came to a small, cylindrical building that looks strikingly different from anything else in the park. A traditional Morellan tea house, historically a place for exchange and a refuge from prying eyes. We had a seat inside as our guards kept watch outdoors. The low-ceilinged room was decorated wall to wall in colorful woven fabrics. In its center, smoke rose from a roaring fire pit up through a hole in the middle of the ceiling. A waiter came by with a tray of Sakura, Morellan tea biscuits. Why, thank you. I love a biscuit. Please, help yourself. We each took a biscuit off the tray. I bit into mine. It was dry, crumbly, and barely sweet, perfect for washing down with a sip of tea. The waiter, however, seemed to have disappeared without serving us anything to drink. That's an oversight. Well, I'm sure he'll be over with our tea shortly. Why did the music get all suspicious all of a sudden? I noticed Sultana had left her biscuit uneaten. In the meantime, I admit that before the nationalization vote, I had held out hope that our kingdom would recognize its debt to Morella and agree to our plan. I was disappointed when that turned out not to be the case. Sorry, but the Rizian economic situation is such that I could not risk a potential loss of gold revenue. Okay. The biscuit had drained all the moisture from my mouth, rendering my speech incoherent. I would like to once again emphasize that the country of Morella will not go back to the way things were. Don't say anything. I stayed silent, my mouth still full of biscuit. Sultana leaned forward. Neither of us want to resort to military measures, but I will say this. Both Vogsland and Morella have kept a close eye on the Rizian populace, particularly your youth. I believe there is a certain spirit in your country, one that, if given the proper support and channels, could bring about monumental change. I'm still just going to say nothing. And you know what? I was kind of thinking, Smolok said that those biscuits was dry as hell. I should have listened to him. Good God. I didn't say anything. If you're willing to agree on an its proposal that is fair and equitable towards Morella, you won't have to find out whether I'm right. She gave a tiny nod. Our waiter stepped over with a pot of tea and two intricately ornamented ceramic cups. Once he'd filled mine, I drank immediately. The hot tea nearly scalded my throat, but I could speak again. That was a nasty stunt. She blinked innocently. I'm truly sorry. I have no idea what took our waiter so long. She nibbled on the corner of her own biscuit, then took a slow, deliberate sip of tea. You should know that while the MITS as a whole will not be nationalized, Morella and Vogsland have come to an agreement on our own. Chancellor Hagel is turning over his country's stake in the trade zone to Morella, in exchange for standard compensation and a continued presence on the board. That's audacious. Neither Rizia nor Lesbia have approved such a sale. What Voxland chooses to do with its share is not Rizia's business. So Morella will have a 50% share in the its. What else could you want? I'll tell you. If Morella is to approve any new agreement for the Methium its, it should include better worker protections at the very minimum. That means regulations guaranteeing mine workers a living wage, limited overtime, and promoting safety, applicable to every stakeholder in the MITs. That is a fair request. I will consider supporting it. I hope you would do more than consider it. You know, Alma, before you tried to kill me with the damn biscuit, I would have considered this. Now I'm pissed, and I'm trying not to be pissed, but I'm really pissed. If I can work out something with Alvarez and just get some more money, fuck him. The mortality risk of miners working in the trade zone is twice as high as that of regular Morellians. The boost to our country's economies is not worth human lives. Still, we'd be losing quite a bit of money. To be fair, every job, yeah, I ain't even saying that. Still, we'd be losing quite a bit of money. It'll be hard to justify that to my government. Harder to justify than a total stalemate among MIT stakeholders. If that is absolutely not an option for Rizia, we would ask for one of the following. First, a financial contribution towards the rehabilitation of the Arifold River watershed. We've had our experts draw up an initial plan. It includes river cleaning initiatives, water purification systems for affected communities, and increased penalties for environmental violations committed by mining companies. I won't lie, it will be costly, but I hope you'll agree that this is a necessary step towards rebuilding the trust between its partners. Don't forget that Morella was also involved in the river pollution. I'm not excluding Morella from this responsibility, but we should not bear the burden alone. Alternatively, we would ask that you offer us an energy partnership equal in value to the one Lesbia proposed. Perfect. We're eager to find new energy extraction sources as soon as possible. What about the Duke? Leave the dealings with the Duke to us. Rizia will handle everything. I'm still wary of getting Morella re-involved with Palais, even indirectly, but a gas pipeline does seem convenient. Lastly, we'd require your assistance in dealing with the Dirtians' attempt to infiltrate our borders. And by dealing with, you mean killing. I mean peacefully deterring. Asmar refuses to talk to me. Can you guess why? Because you're an atheist? An agnostic Zaronist, actually, but no, the Supreme Wiseman refuses to negotiate with female leaders. But I have a hunch he will respect the king and fellow Rulises. I can try my best, but I doubt I'd be able to get through to him. For both our country's sake, I hope you do. Anyway, that's everything from our side. Do we have an agreement, or are there other options you'd like to discuss? Would you also approve the reallocation of Lesbia's its share to Rizia? She regarded me cautiously. That would require as a much more substantial commitment from Rizia than what we've discussed earlier. There would still be some room for negotiation, but the pollution reparations, the energy deal, and the dirty and border assistance would all be on the table. Why doesn't Morella take Lesbia's share as well? We don't need their final approval as long as Volksland is still on board. She hesitated. Why are you suggesting this? What would be in it for Rizia? Hmm. The Its would be managed by two neighboring countries. You must see the benefit in that. I can't just ignore the offer that Lesbia made us, but I might agree to take their share in exchange for at least a few of the demands I mentioned earlier. Hmm. Yeah, I'm not going to say that. We've discussed this enough. Here's what I propose. Please let this be a negotiation. Please tell me. Hmm. Because I don't have the money for some of this, do I? I want the new its agreement to split the trade zone shares 50-50 between Rizia and Morella. Lesbia will get nothing. Hmm. Yeah, I can't afford this. Can I? Um yeah, I just have to try to keep my shares. I want Rizia and Lesbia to keep our current shares, and I'm willing to meet your conditions to gain Morella's approval. She smiled. That's the outcome I was hoping for. We'll be in touch shortly regarding the exact details. I expect that Rizia will hold to whatever promises are made. Halata. If it is said, so it is, so it will be. Right. She stood up and pushed her chair back. Feel free to take a biscuit for the trip home if you like. Sure, it'll come in handy if there's a leak in my palace roof that needs plugging. You're a real cut up, King Ramus. We left the tea house and joined our guards outside. Man, if I could invade Morella just for the damn biscuit. Just for the biscuit. Oh, I'm pissed. RPP closes campaign in Bronis. The colorful rally, the RPP closed their election campaign. The decision to close it in Bronis is a testament to creative and unique to a creative and unique campaign. With the small city being chosen as a location on the border of Rizia Imperia and Brennis is highly symbolic. Okay. Riots as migrant groups clash with Suhamana. Scores of injured and hundreds of arrests the balance after a night of rioting gripped Aiza's city center. Migrant rights groups had organized a counter demonstration to Suhamana's pre-election rally, during which the ultra-nationalist group repeatedly criticized the Crown's decision to offer paths to citizenship to non-ethnic Rizians. In the aftermath of the rally, Suamana militants attacked counter-demonstrators. Order was eventually restored in the early morning. Okay. And that's just the invitation for the myth. RNC closes campaign in Monkeys. A massive rally, not too dissimilar from the one that started the campaign, marks the end of the RNC campaign. Tens of thousands of supporters gathered in the RNC stronghold of Monkeys, ending their campaign with an impressive display of strength. All right, so that is everything there. The RNC campaign closing event turnout outshines RPP. Both the RNC and the RPP held their final events of the electoral campaign as millions of Rizians prepare to head to the polls to fulfill their democratic duty. While both parties held mass closing rallies, the traditional RNC pre-election rally on Monkeys was by far the best attended, drawing hundreds of thousands of supporters to the city. We at the Royal Herald continue to root for the King's Party and are convinced that the people of Rizia will make the right choice at the ballot box. Well, we can't believe them because, again, this is propaganda. So, yeah. On the return flight from Morella, in air over Morellian Rizian border. Oh God, what's gonna happen? I took my first class seat in the plane that had been chartered for my return flight from Morella. Looking outside of the window, I could see Argno and the mountains. The future of our relationship with Morella and the Mitts was in my head. I took a look at the papers in front of me. Oh, okay. As part of the new agreement for the Methium International Trade Zone, Rizia agrees to the following. As part of the renegotiated Methium International Trade Zone agreement, God, Rizia will keep its current 25% stake and commit to the following. I will speak with Dirtia on Morella's behalf. I have no problem with that because I want to speak to them. Hopefully I can get some energy from them. Yes. I reviewed the agreement once more before signing it. The pilot announced that our descent into Port Drazen had begun. I fastened my seatbelt. That was the only thing? Or did I not scroll through that? Oh no. Was there more that I was supposed to go through on that? Oh God. Not long after my return from Morella, Elena and Lorento requested a meeting with me. Prime Minister Sultana's ministers had sent feedback following our MITS negotiation. The future of the trade zone now hung in the balance. We convened in the council chambers. My counselors greeted me with smiles on their faces. Your Majesty, I hope you rested from your trip. Barely, but it'll have to do. I do hope you can rest more easily after today's meeting. As do I, Your Majesty. Lorento shuffled through some documents. The Morellan Foreign Minister has completed their review of our draft proposal for the renegotiated bids. Unfortunately, they find our offer insufficient. They ask that we agree to one more of the demands Miss Sultana mentioned in your meeting. I expected as much. My original offer wasn't exactly generous. I thought it was fair, Your Majesty, but let's have a look at Morella's remaining demands. We lack the resources to pay for pollution rehabilitation Miss Sultana is asking for. With our access to the Oris field secured, we should be able to follow through on an energy agreement with Morella. As part of this deal, Miss Sultana is asking for the immediate construction of a pipeline from Rizia to Morella. However, the energy partnership would only come into full effect once the new MITS agreement does. Implementing stricter regulations is a sticking point for the Morellan Prime Minister. But if miners here in Rizia learn that MITS workers are receiving the same protections they've been denied, it could lead to trouble. But it's your decision, Your Majesty. Should we make additional concessions or agree on another share arrangement? Another share arrangement? I'm a little confused about this. Because I can't. So are you saying that if I agree on another share arrangement, I have less shares in the MITS? I'm just gonna say I'm willing to make more concessions. Elena raised her pen to begin taking notes. Yes, Your Majesty. But you said we don't have the budget for this, right? Yeah, and I can't really afford a smaller share. We will agree to the stricter regulations Prime Minister Sultana is demanding? Can we do that? Elena made a note of what I'd said. Perfect. Lorenzo, I assume you will notify Prime Minister Sultana at once? Absolutely, Miss Warner. If we can follow through on this, it'll be the greatest diplomatic coup since the MITS was originally founded. Um, Thanks to both of you for your hard work and good advice. You're too kind, Your Majesty. While we have you here, a word on Palais. He nodded at Elena. Right, yes. Rizian Oil and Gas is finishing up work on the pipeline that will carry gas from our section of the Oris field to Rizia. Because of the small area allocated to us and the royalties we have to pay to Lesbia and Palais, we can't expect high returns, but it'll be something. There's one small snag. The Pelagians are requesting that we send a diplomatic liaison to Castle Reinhardt to oversee the last stages of the deal. Everything has been running smoothly so far. I'm sure it's just a standard precaution. I can't shake the feeling that Reinhardt has something up his sleeve. For what it's worth, Your Majesty, Palais has been nothing but cooperative during the preliminary construction process. I assume we'll be sending a diplomatic envoy then. We certainly could do so, but Duke Reinhardt's ministers have hinted that he would prefer the presence of a higher level individual. This seems like a mostly symbolic position, geared towards someone young, energetic, and quick-witted. Someone who commands respect, but is able to leave the capital for a 6-month stretch without it affecting government operations. Oh God, you want me to send my daughter? He and Elena slowly turned to look at each other, realizations dawning on their faces. And we do know the Duke enjoys the company of the fairer sex. You want me to pimp out my daughter to Axel Reinhardt? Elena frowned disapprovingly. Nothing so vulgar, right, Lorento? The presence of the princess at Castle Reinhardt would force the Duke to be on his best behavior. But I understand your hesitation. I'm sure a standard diplomatic envoy would be effective as well. You don't have to make the decision right away, but the Pelagians are expecting an answer soon. God. Because I would prefer to have her marry, the Sazon kid. I'll speak with Vina and see what she says. Because I'm not trying to send her there in order to, get some type of marriage going. I'm sending her there because of politics. That's it. Thank you, Your Majesty. We've gone long past our allotted time. Why don't we call it a day? Gladly. I've had enough foreign policy talk for a lifetime. The three of us wrapped up our meeting and went our separate ways. Ah, there's that -1. Wonderful. I was afraid of that. Assault on Rizian citizens by Swordfish tourists. Oh, great. The peaceful streets of Valenquir have been shaken by a scandalous incident. A group of Swordfish tourists, has been accused of brutally assaulting a Rizian citizen. This event has sparked a heated debate across the nation. Public outcry demands justice, while diplomatic considerations urge a more measured response. The decision on how to handle the foreign tourists could strain Rizian Swordfish relations and set a precedent for future international incidents. Bring the Swordfish tourists to justice in Rizia. You break our laws, you're going to pay by our laws. Okay, we have one little document over here. Read the report. Sultana promises MIT's agreement support. Following our negotiations with Prime Minister Alma Sultana, she has sent us a non-binding assurance that she will support the latest draft of the MIT's agreement when it comes time for the final board vote. Alrighty. Rizia and Morelia relations improve. With the signing of a new series of agreements between our kingdom and the Republic of Morella, an era of improved relations between our two countries has started. While we at the Herald naturally applaud our king's shrewd negotiation skills and hail friendship between neighbors as a good thing, We also questioned the increased influence of the wicked Melaniev on our continent. After all, Morella's president, Alma Sultana, has praised Melaniev's ideas in the past. Some might suggest that a more hardline approach against Melaniev's countries in order to isolate them from the rest of the world would have been a better approach. Okay. Rizia chooses justice over diplomacy in Valenquir incident. The Rizian government's decision to prosecute the Swedish tourists involved in the Valenquir assault internally marks a significant moment in Rizian-Swedish relations. While this move has been lauded by the Rizian public for its commitment to justice, it raises questions about the diplomatic repercussions. This incident could set a precedent for how the kingdom manages future international legal disputes. Well, again, you can't just go up in somebody else's country and just do whatever the hell you want. Okay. Now, with that being done, is there anything I can do with this authority? I doubt it, but... Yep, can't do fuck all with this. Yeah, that's definitely one thing I do hope that maybe in future updates or something like that will be changed, because right now, like, don't get me wrong, authority is okay, but I think I've encountered 2 events maybe that has actually used authority and authority alone. So it's kind of given like it's pretty useless. You know, I would prefer that, like, if you had high enough authority, and I mentioned this in the comments earlier today, but or yesterday for you people, but I did mention that I wish that you could use authority to, like, you know, negotiate things with less constraints or something like that, or even had an option like in the decrees where if you had authority or you had an option, then you could turn around and use authority in order to get revenue from the nobles, you know, have some type of, I don't know, whatever nobles do in order to gain money and stuff like that, or, you know, have them forced to pay tribute. Now, it would, of course, affect you down the road or whatnot, but that would be a nice option to kind of offset the authority, because I always have authority and I need it for nothing other than it's always just something that's used in conjunction with these other things, like, you know, the resident work permits. And I can kind of understand that because you're trying to use, I guess, approval, you know, in order to turn around and do certain things. But again, in the long run, it just seems like kind of an unnecessary currency, I guess is the best way I can put it. But anywho, visit to the Esqueris gas field. I had invited Vina on a yacht trip from Topaz out to view the Esqueris gas field. I hadn't visited since its expansion had been completed, and it had been a long time since my daughter and I had talked. The Rizia was anchored a few hundred meters offshore. I stood on the aft deck, awaiting Vina's arrival. Claiming she was tired of being hounded by the press, she'd asked to take a dinghy incognito from a nearby port. As the small craft pulled up alongside my yacht, I realized my daughter wasn't alone. She secured the boat and climbed out to join me on the deck, followed by Manus Saison. Hello, Father. Yes, greetings, Your Majesty. Manus bowed. The 2 of them regarded me nervously. What a pleasant surprise, Vina. What a pleasant surprise. Vina, why didn't you tell me you'd be bringing company? Vina breathed a sigh of relief. I'm sorry, Father. I wasn't sure how you would react. I wanted a chance for the 3 of us to speak in private, out of the way of the press. Manus cleared his throat. There are certain conversations regarding Rizia's direction that have yet to be followed up on. Good idea. We 3 have a lot to talk about. Yes, we do. The yacht pulled up anchor and we began our journey out to the Esqueris field. As we ascended to the upper deck, I noted that the Rizania's shabby state of repairs. The paint was peeling in places, and a few of the fixtures were rusted. Apologies, Mr. Saison. The yacht has seen better days. No, she's beginning to show her age, but she's a fine vessel. She looks beautiful, Your Majesty. You're too polite. The Rizania hasn't been restored since before Mother died. But our country shouldn't have to pay for the upkeep of the king's luxury vessel. Don't you think so, Mr. Saison? Ah, well, if the king sees the utility in maintaining such a craft, I would not dare to oppose him. We settled around a table on the upper deck. A server came around with orange juice and light refreshments. I looked around. We were surrounded by open ocean, with the gas field yet to come into view. So, Father, Your Majesty, They looked at each other and laughed. Spit it out, you two. Manus nodded at my daughter. Well, Father, I don't think it's a secret that the two of us connected in Salabes. We've been corresponding since then and speaking on the phone when we've had time. I confess I withheld my feelings at first, fearing reprisal from the king. Yet the more we spoke and wrote, the more I realized what a fool I'd be to walk away from such a beautiful, inspiring woman. Vina blushed furiously. We both know better than to rush into marriage, but it is our hope that you will give your blessing to our relationship. No, absolutely not. Nah, I'm just joking. I would love nothing more than to grant my full-throated approval. And if I keep this up, I'm going to be excommunicated from this country. But... No buts. Go for it, you crazy kids. Vina and Manus looked at each other excitedly. Thank you, Father. Not that we needed your approval. But this makes everything easier. They embraced tightly. A content silence descended. After a while, faint industrial noises began puncturing the quiet. We were nearing the Esquerus field. Come, let all three of us behold the majestic gas extraction capabilities of the Kingdom of Rizia. Manus and Vina nodded to each other, then got up from their seats and walked with me to the ship's bow. The expanded gas field was a sight to behold. A veritable city of metal drilling rigs rose out of the sea in front of us, connected by a labyrinth of platforms, cables, and pipelines. There's something strangely beautiful about it, isn't it? I don't find anything beautiful about the destruction of marine habitats. Manus squeezed her shoulder. You'd rather we go back to coal and oil. This is the cleanest, safest energy source out there. I don't know about that. Florida would beg to differ. Yet again, they might not beg to differ. Except for my province's hydroelectric dam, of course. You have our thanks for that, Your Majesty. I hope it cuts on soon. Greater energy independence is a win for all of us, Mr. Saison. Yes, both my house and the RPP are happy to see Rizia making progress on that front. Vina nudged him. And speaking of progress, I've been doing some thinking since our conversation in Salabes. We both have. My house will be happy to help you achieve the reforms you desire. So am I. All three of us want the same thing, Father. Yes, Rizia ruled by the common people, not the nobility. They both nodded. We both believe that this can be accomplished without fundamentally disrupting Rizia's societal structure. Yes, the royal family should guide Rizians through the transition, not abandon them to it. I thought for a second you two were going to advocate for a revolution. We talked about it, but look at what's going on around us. Rizia needs change, but we also need stability. We had reached the far edge of the gas field. The yacht creaked a little as it began to turn around. Here's what we were thinking, Your Majesty. As long as the Rizian National Coalition holds a delicate majority, they will oppose our attempts at reform. Yes, you can override their objections, but there's the chance that your Grand Vizier will use that as justification to oust you from the throne. He rested his elbows on the ship's railing. On the other hand, if the Rizian People's Party were in power, you would have a much easier time of it. As you know, there's an election coming up. Hmm. You want me to rig the election? That doesn't sound like you. I'm not going to say that because I don't want the corruption to be the first thought that I had. If you win, you'll be the head puppets in our puppet parliament. How will that change anything? For a start, it will be a lot easier to pass progressive decrees if we're in charge. Listen, the makeup of the House of Delegates is determined by the outcome of the provincial elections, right? But as long as the province's ruling nobles hold the power to appoint half of the councillors themselves, overriding the people's wishes, the monarchists in the RNC will always have an unfair advantage. Vina nodded in agreement. Take away that power and the House of Delegates will truly be a parliament of the people. And what if it backfires? What if the Rizian National Coalition is what the people really want? There's only one way to find out. Just imagine, Father. Haven't you always wanted to know what everyone really thinks of us? Of course. I've long believed that the king should be on the same level with his subjects, not stand head and shoulders above them. Exactly. Only when the Rizian royalty becomes part of ordinary Rizian society can we bring everyone together. I understand that it takes time and effort to pass a decree of this magnitude, but with a big push now, you can implement it in time for the next election. I will make it a priority. It's time for Rizia to raise its voice. Manus and Vina looked at each other excitedly. Thank you, Your Majesty. I've got the proposal written up already. I'll make sure it reaches you. You may call me Ramas. That means so much. Thank you. I turned my gaze forward. The coast of Topaz was starting to come into view. Our first outing as a couple. I hope we're ready for it. Of course everyone will accept you. You're young, beautiful nobles. Not that the noble part should mean anything. He's right, love. We're both too pretty for Rizia to resist. He slipped his arm around Vina's waist. Together, they looked out at the approaching horizon. I allowed them a moment of privacy and retreated to the cabin to prepare for our arrival. Sir, you're not going to speak to your daughter about this, sir? Okay, let's see where this proposal is. We have violent protests in Valancourt, good God. Where art thou? Where art thou? Workers' right protection for all industries. Boy, do I want to pass. Electoral reform. 6 authority. My God. This decree abolishes the appointed delegates. Oh, God. I would have that in 2 turns. I don't even know if there's 2 turns left. But yeah, I would have that in 2 turns. I would need to do a lot. Well, I guess reform isn't going to happen. So I guess I need to look at countries that I could possibly flee to, because this isn't going to go well. Royal Yacht restoration. Jesus. And I just lose. Okay. The monarchy's grand yacht, commissioned in 1901, now shows signs of wear and tear. While its restoration holds deep symbolic value, it also demands considerable time and resources. The alternative is to sell the antique piece. Wow. So I can't just like keep it somewhere and choose to like leave it there. No, I'm forced to scrap and sell it and lose one authority. I call bullshit on that. And we're into the next turn. Let's see. Rufus Gregg's royal gossip. Venus officially confirmed. You suspected it, and now your humble gossip columnist gets to confirm it. Princess Vina Torres and RPP speaker Manus Sazon are an item. The two were seen at the port of Topaz, stepping off the Rizian arm in arm, followed by none other than Daddy Ramis. This is no secret fling. It's a state-supported thing, by order of the king. But where's the ring? For now, both lovebirds' fingers remain bare. Time will tell if a royal wedding is in the cards. I know how Sazon will be over the moon to add a princess to its family tree. Lord. Venus. Well, hopefully this doesn't kill me next turn. It probably will. On shores of gold. Okay, we're out of the negative again. This shit still isn't done. It'll be done next turn. Wonderful. Okay, Malinyeva's workers strike Halt City. In Argno, workers across all industries have laid down their tools in solidarity, demanding an improvement of working conditions for everyone, regardless of profession or industry. Factory gates remain shut, and streets are eerily empty, as picket lines set up across town have crippled industry and logistics. I'm sorry, but I need to turn around and get some authority. So disperse the protesters. Okay, we got more equipment and authority, so that's a thing. Let's see, Mephium International Trade Zone, read the report. MITS workers announced solidarity strike. The Morellan Assembled Mine Workers Union has called for a one-day strike in solidarity with the dispersed strike in Argno, just over the border. The AMWU, the AMWU, also mobilized Rizian workers active in the zone and brought in workers from Argno to speak at a large rally in the town of Mephium. Boy, I tell you, when I get to play this in my spare time, and I get to be the dictator that I wanted to be with all the cheats possible, I am going to screw all these countries. I'm probably just going to take over all of them. All right, strike was dispersed. Police forces have broken up barricades and picket lines, bringing the Melanyevis workers' strike to a premature end. Workers refuse to go back to work, have been fired, and in order to keep the industry running, loyal citizens from other parts of the country have been brought in to temporarily fill their roles. We brought in scabs. I'm sorry, guys. Maybe in another life where I'm not royally screwed. Let's see. Public transportation on time performance downgraded. -1 budget. Our public transportation system is facing a severe decline in on-time performance, with quality stagnating across rail, land, and sea services. Certain lines have ceased operation due to organizational challenges, causing inconvenience and dissatisfaction among the populace. We have missed the train. All right, that's -1 budget. So I guess it didn't really affect us. I mean, I'm fine with that, but Republic of Kairoot global media campaign proposal. Orchestrating media influence to the world from Kairoot. Yeah, I'm not even gonna go over there. Let's see. Royal decree. Oh, this is for levies. I don't want that. Man. I that would cost all my authority. That would give me budget. That would pretty much leave me in a screwed situation, though. Yeah. Remove income tax. Are you crazy? That costs 3 authority. Oh, shite. Allow free press. You know, I want to, but I want to allow a free election first. And I can't sell anything. God. Force Frucis. No, that's not. Everything costs authority. Nothing actually gives me authority. And I do want the money, but again, I'm kind of at this point now where I'm just like, I'm eternally screwed, and building stuff is just, well, yeah. So I think I'm very much screwed in this situation. Let's see. All right, I guess we'll just leave it for right now, because yeah, nothing is really giving me anything I want. Again, the landowner tax gives me budget, but that's about it. So, but it gives me budget, completely obliterates my authority, and I'm not going to be able to turn around and pass the election reform. So, oh boy, I'm just going to hold it for now. Let's see what news we have. King sends strong message to troublemakers. An unacceptable defiance of public duty was carried out by Melanyeva's workers in the town of Argno, who not only refused to work, but also actively prevented their colleagues from working and getting paid. Luckily, the Crown's response was fierce and the strike was dispersed. This country cannot have these rascals prevent our economy from turning. If these Melanyevis would ever manage to get their way, we would all be poor. Millions of Rizians head to the polls. Across the country, polling stations have opened as our fellow citizens head to the polls to fulfill their duty and confirm their support for King Ramesh Torres by electing a new House of Delegates. We congratulate the Electoral Commission for organizing a smooth voting process. RNC leader Daria Durava has already cast her vote among large media attention in Port Drazen. Results are not expected until later tonight, but the Royal Herald editors will work dutifully through the night to provide a comprehensive morning edition full of the latest results. So this basically means I'm screwed as far as the reform goes as well. So can't do anything about that. Just all around wonderful global media campaign proposal. The kingdom faces a strategic opportunity to enhance its global standing through a significant media campaign centered in Constantinium, Kairut, known for being a hub of diplomatic activity and international lobbying. This initiative aims to positively transform Rizia's international perception, leveraging its location amidst the world's embassies and influential lobbies. Our image is sufficient. All right, we have 2 more things. The Guild of Royal, Vindanism requests expeditionary force in civil war. I mean, I'm not going to use them for anything else, so sure, why not? The Confederacy now requests more direct military involvement from its Grace allies. The kingdom must decide whether to escalate its involvement by deploying troops. Sending a full division represents a significant commitment and could decisively tip the scales, but it also risks greater entanglement in the conflict. Alternatively, a volunteer brigade offers support without full-scale intervention. However, choosing not to send any force could weaken Venenism's position and our influence in Grace. Sure, y'all can have 1 infantry division, I don't care. It's mostly for maintaining alliances. Read the report. Grace nations commit support to Venenism. In response to the ongoing civil war in Vendenism, Grace is increasing its support for the monarchist royalist troops. This assistance aligns with the organization's core values of upholding monarchist governance and stabilizing the region. Our alliance stands firmly with our allies in their time of need, reflecting our commitment to our principles and global stability. Okay. Let's see. Port Drazen. Meeting with the Royal Council. Also, we have a news article. What is this? Kingdom of Rizia intervened in Venenism's civil war. By committing troops to fight on the side of Venenism's besieged prince consort, Rizia has thrown itself into the first armed conflict since its invasion of Palais decades earlier. It remains to be seen whether or not the Rizian troops can turn the tide of the war in favor of its traditional ally, with the situation becoming ever more dire for the Confederacy. At the very least, it signals Rizia's commitment to grace. I don't remember them in the main game. I don't think anything was mentioned. I could be wrong because I haven't really delved into the amendment update since it was released, so we'll see. Meeting with the Royal Council. Oh, this should go swimmingly. Vina and I walked into the council chambers. The councilors were already seated and waiting for us. As Titus closed the door behind us, the council members all stood up and bowed in respect. Good day, everybody. I hope there's nothing too crazy to worry about today. We'll talk about that in a bit, Your Majesty. Great. He then turned to Vina and bowed again. Your Highness, before we begin in earnest, we must acknowledge the results of the recent House of Delegates election. He had a dour look on his face. In a historic first for our kingdom, the Rizian People's Party won the majority of the seats. By unanimous vote, Manus Sazon was named House Speaker. I wonder if this happened because I just did such a shit job managing the economy and everything that it just basically let them win regardless. Huh. Vina made no effort to hide her joy. This shows that the public is hungry for a change in our kingdom's direction. We should listen to what they have to say. Should we? His expression turned quizzical. I wouldn't be surprised if House Sazon had a hand in manipulating the voting results. And I'm not certain the votes of the foreigners who flocked to the polls should even be counted as legitimate. Give the new delegates a chance, Your Grace. Their ideas could invigorate all of Rizia. If they don't destroy it first. This isn't the only unpleasant news I have to share today. Wonderful. According to Miss Warner's report, Rizia seems to be slipping into a serious energy crisis. He gestured at Elena. I'll let her speak. Thank you, Your Grace. That is correct. We are heading straight into an energy crisis and we are in need of new sources as soon as possible. It is definitely worrying. But perhaps we should start with an overview of our situation first. We are rapidly exhausting all of our energy stockpile. If nothing's done to reverse the situation, we may end up in a destructive situation for Rizian industries. The energy reserves are already depleted and we are struggling to find new reserves. We are fearing significant blackouts or other issues that might arise. She placed a stack of papers on the table. The good news is that our current projections for the future is still promising. Based on our current deals and promises, including our projected energy production, we will be able to meet the demand of our industries if our current projects succeed. I have to underline the importance of this. We cannot afford to fail our energy projects if we want to meet the demands of our industries and our international partners. Okay. We have to deal with the energy problem immediately. What are your suggestions? One suggestion I have is to sign the plans for the Havis coal mine project. It can provide a little relief for our energy industry. Apart from that, there's also the Oris gas field, of course. But of course, we have already let go of our claims there, so there's not much space for movement there. We can always negotiate better deals and import energy from our partners when necessary. What is the current projections for our future energy production? At the moment, our energy demands are not being met. Fortunately, we have additional projects that we are predicting some energy returns from. The Zapna hydroelectric dam project is continuing with speed. If it succeeds, our projection is that it will provide some relief for our energy industry. As a renewable alternative, it will provide a strategic value for us as well. Additionally, there was our deal with Gasm, the Swedish gas giant. Unfortunately, the Swedish Energy Protection Act seriously limited foreign investment, so we weren't able to obtain the amount of shares we wanted. Although it could still provide us with some finances, we are not expecting too much from the deal in terms of energy output. She took a look at her notes. And finally, there is the disputed Oris gas field. The predicted gas output from the field is of immense value. And how does the estimated value fit into our current projection? The entire field is enough to supply us for decades to come, but getting the rights to the half of the field could also provide us with an incredible relief. But unfortunately, given our current deal, the energy we'll receive from the field is of negligible importance. Do you have any other questions, Your Majesty? Thank you, Miss Warner. I have enough information. Of course, Your Majesty. She bowed in respect. We also have some news from Mr. Escobar regarding Palais and the Oris gas field. Your Majesty, Prime Minister Alvarez will be ratifying his gas deal with Duke Reinhardt in 2 months. Our lesbian counterparts assured us that they will be granting us 25% of the rights as promised, as soon as all of the paperwork between Rizia, Lesbia, and Palais is finished. Let's hope he holds his end of the bargain. We are in need of every scrap of energy we can get. I'm hoping this will reflect well for peace in the region. Thank you for letting me know. With all due respect, Your Majesty, this was hardly a necessary sacrifice. We are willingly letting go of our claim to Oris during an energy crisis, when we are desperately in need of those resources. The law supports our ownership of at least half of Oris, possibly even the entire field. Your comments are appreciated, but the deal is already settled, Duchess Zaro. I mean, I'm guessing that this is a situation where if I choose to question this is just going to end in war. Because, I mean, we've already had the Alliance of Nations situation, so what, are we going to go back to the Alliance of Nations? But yeah, thank you for your comments, Duchess, but let's move on with the meeting. If there are no other comments on this topic, that was the extent of the news from my side. That settles it then. I believe it's time to wrap this up. Everyone stood up and bowed. Vina and I stood up and left the chambers. Father, do you think Lesbia can be trusted? Not completely, but one can hope for a better partnership between our nations. I agree, and I'm willing to do my part in that if I'm ever needed. I know you do, Vina. Thank you. All right. We walked together to the royal quarters of the palace. All right. House of Delegates updated. Let's see. They got 37 seats. Good for them, man. Good for them. And I didn't even need to pass the thingamabob. Now, that leaves me in a bit of a spot, though. The alignment of the 6 stars. Okay. Kairu congratulates Rizia on successful elections. The Republic of Kairu extended its formal congratulations to the Kingdom of Rizia for holding a successful election. It cited a desire for continued diplomatic relations with our kingdom and wished us a peaceful future. Morella's Prime Minister, Alma Sultana, has congratulated the RPP on its victory in the Rizian election. She highlighted shared values between the Rizian opposition party and her own, and called upon King Ramis to respect the results and be open to fruitful collaboration with the RPP. All right. So that's everything. Now, question that I have is that election bull still there? Move income tax. Okay, so electoral reform is still there. The decree abolishes the appointed delegates from provinces in the House of Delegates, establishing a direct election method for all 70 seats. Every citizen's vote will now hold equal importance, ensuring fair and equitable representation from Brennus, Valenquirus, Cardia Monteclair, and the Rizia Imperi territory. The implementation of a fully elected house aims to reflect the true will of the people in legislative matters. Now, again, the question is, do I still need this? Because they won. So I would assume that I don't need to do this anymore. So maybe I should just go ahead and get some money. I don't know about welfare privatization. That would take 3, but it would give me some budget. Lucida doesn't like it. Pretty sure she's just not happy in general with me. -4 authority. That would cost all my authority for that. I kind of want to do welfare privatization just because it would give me some budget, but it's only going to give me 2 budget. I saw one that would give me 3. Yeah, that just gives me +1 budget per turn. Let's see. I could have sworn there was one that would give me 3 budget. That's just 2. Non-roots religion tax. Now that just gives me +2 per turn. I don't have that right now. That gives me 3 budget, but this is -4 authority, which means I will have no authority. I mean, that budget would be very useful, but I would have no authority, and knowing how this thing goes a lot of times, I would need at least 1 authority to do something. So I'm just going to do welfare privatization. I really don't want to do that, but c'est la vie. Okay, that gives me 2 budget. I can't help with any of that. Don't want to do public sea transportation. Don't want to buy any equipment. Yeah, and these are just... Yeah, this is for war, so I'm not gonna worry about those. But at least I'll have some budget if something pops up and then they're just like, hey, you know, you want this amazing thing that'll cost you some budget that you don't have? The alignment of the 6 stars. And there's going to be trade negotiations coming up pretty soon. The Port Drazin Observatory Tower stood tall against the night sky, stars twinkling overhead as my motorcade arrived beneath it. However, it now functioned more as a museum than for astronomical observation due to the city's light pollution. It served as a tangible relic of Rizia's bygone era, when celestial wonders were more easily unveiled. I'd come to meet with Grand Wiseman Ignatius for the alignment of the 6 stars, a rare Ruisis celestial event that occurred every 200 years. From a scientific perspective, I have been looking forward to this extraordinary occasion for quite some time. Yeah, that's what I just read. I hear the alignment is going to be quite the sight, especially from this vantage point. Titus nodded toward the top of the tower. It offers a poignant reflection on the minuscule nature of our existence within the vastness of the universe. It truly is humbling, sir. Before long, Titus and I vacated our vehicle, went inside, and began ascending the spiraling staircase. We eventually reached the top. I was nearly out of breath, whereas Titus seemed to breeze through it without breaking a sweat. We were met by 2 guards standing alongside a wooden door, one of whom opened it for us. I stepped inside while Titus remained behind. The room, a sanctuary of ancient knowledge, was dimly lit. The air carried the scent of aged books and burning incense. Candles cast a soft glow around the room. Saul, who was hunched over an altar adorned with celestial charts and religious artifacts, appeared deeply engrossed in the preparations for the celestial event, seemingly unaware of my presence. Hmm. Hmm. I hope I'm not interrupting anything. Startled, he raised his head to meet my gaze. Forgive my oversight, Your Majesty. I didn't realize you had entered. I've been immersed in arrangements for tonight's momentous occasion. I kind of want to say this. I could re-enter if you like and try again, shall I? Saul chuckled. No need, Your Majesty. I have no doubt your entrance was magnificent. But never mind that. I'm delighted you're here. An exhilarating event awaits you. It's quite remarkable that we're about to witness the same celestial alignment St. Warwick beheld so many years ago. You're acquainted with the story, aren't you? Hmm. Mm, yeah, that I am. The celestial alignment holds great importance in our religious heritage. I'm glad you think so. If it pleases you, I'd be honored to retell the story. God damn it. As we celebrate tonight's event, I was trying to avoid that. Um, by all means, let's hear it. Excellent. Saul cleared his throat and began to pace around the room. In the tenets of Ruhicism, there unfolds a celestial saga, the alignment of six stars. Imagine St. Ward, our venerable faith's architect, embarking on a sacred sojourn into the cosmic vastness. Guided by divine insight, St. Warwick witnessed the cosmic ballet, grasping the profound significance of this alignment. With spiritual brilliance, he condensed the 11 pillars into six, aligning them with the celestial bodies, now recognized as planets. Hmm. Hmm. Fascinating. I'm sorry to admit that I know less of this than I thought I did. No one is perfect, Your Majesty. But as I was saying, St. Warwick perceived the alignment as a symbol of spiritual evolution, a journey toward a more harmonious interconnectedness of the cosmic and spiritual realms. Each aligned planet, embodying a pillar, became a torch, illuminating simplified teachings and a testament to the diverse perspectives within Rusicism. The alignment of the six stars acts as a celestial guide, directing the faithful on their journey to enlightenment. And that's what we're here to bear witness to tonight. Nicely done, though if I may give a bit of constructive criticism, it could have been shortened. No. Ah, I must say, you're quite the orator. Your recounting was truly stirring. Saul nodded appreciatively. If you'll follow me, we can continue our discussion on the balcony, where we may witness the magnificence of the event unfold before us. As requested, I stepped into the cool of evening air alongside him. I took in the sight of Port Drazen sprawled beneath, its lights flickering like stars in the night. However, when I turned my gaze upward, there were no stars to be seen. Instead, nothing but clouds blanketed the sky above. Hmm. It appears that the heavens have other plans in mind. Let's be patient. Their intentions may unfold in due time. The cosmos has a language of its own. Tonight, it speaks of destiny and the intertwining of fates. Hmm. Intriguing. Please go on. Saw eyes lit up, illuminated by faint moonlight. If I may speak candidly, Your Majesty, I find your unwavering commitment to upholding traditional values of Ruicism most inspiring. Your willingness to uphold the Golconda's anti-blasphemy laws is a testament to that commitment. And I believe that continuing down this path will not only honor our rich history, but also cultivate a sense of unity and purpose among our people. Oh, you have no idea. I was just about to get rid of some of them laws, but, luckily I was looking at the money, so you got lucky, sir. But yeah, sure, faith and all that. Moreover, we will foster loyalty and a shared devotion that will undoubtedly stand as a beacon for generations to come. Your words are hardening. It's our shared principles that guide our kingdom's path. Absolutely, Your Majesty. Through the acknowledgement of divine authority, we can create a kingdom united not only by earthly governance, but is also infused with a spiritual dimension, transcending mere temporal concerns. Hmm. Hmm. And that's precisely why I'm committed to ensuring that our kingdom truly embodies a life of piety. I'm pleased to hear it. The prosperity of our realm is interwoven with our resolute commitment to the tenets of Ruicism, which may be more important than ever, especially in the face of hostile religious influences from outside our borders. Specifically, Dirty and Gokandis. Oh God, what do you want me to do now? This is. I love how every time these situations occur, these people give these long-winded, grand speeches about philosophy, buttering me up and everything, and then they're just like, yeah, and then let's move on to this threat that I see, and here's what we should do about it: pass this bill. Huh. Hmm. Despite our past dealings with them, I wouldn't go so far as to call Dirty and Gokandis hostile, but even still. Um, Maintaining positive relations with Morella takes precedence, especially now that we've agreed to speak to Dirtier regarding their border dispute. So it's vita, we come to a understanding with Grand Wiseman Asmol. Very true. It's not just religious, but diplomatic and economical implications to think about. Which is why I believe it's best to have a well-rounded understanding of friends and foes alike. Okay. Okay, you convince me? What's there to know? I'm glad that you asked. I don't even know if I really asked. It was more like it was pushed down my throat, but sure, by all means, continue. It goes without saying that their commitment to Gokandism extends into every facet of their daily existence. It is an integral part of their cultural identity, shaping their traditions, values, and societal interactions. Hmm. Mm, yes, the intertwining of their cultural identity and Gokandism has deep historical roots. It's unfortunate, but that's the situation we find ourselves in. Nevertheless, if you seek diplomatic relations or alliances with the Golkandis of Dirtia, you must acknowledge that their legal systems are deeply entwined with their religious doctrines, especially in areas such as our own bans on homosexuality and Golkandis worship. Navigating these differences while upholding our own values will be a challenge. Hmm. It's a tightrope act balancing Golkandis and mainstream Ruis's interests. More like walking on a razor's edge. Hmm. Anyway, the point is Rizia may need military assistance from Dirtia due to our ongoing conflicts with Wayland regarding Zeal. Um, let's see. Nevertheless, I simply want to improve our diplomatic relations in any way, shape, or form. Of course, a united front with our neighbor, despite our religious differences, is more resilient against external challenges. While your decision not to implement the dirty and brutish ban was not well received by Wayland, I believe you've left the door open for future negotiations with Dirtia. Hmm. I hope so. We still don't have assurances that it will foster better relations or lead to a beneficial collaboration. Yes, but keeping channels open is a diplomatic necessity. Even if nothing comes from these particular negotiations, there stands a chance something fruitful could come out of them in the future. Regardless, it goes without saying that the last thing we need is another adversary on our doorstep. Hmm. While international relations are important, my foremost concern is the state of affairs within our borders. Um, yes, we all want peace, love, and harmony, but the real world isn't so idealistic, and we have to be prepared to use force when necessary. No, I'm just going to go with this one. As they should. Yet it's crucial to acknowledge that external events can profoundly influence our internal dynamics, particularly in matters of religion and subsequent communities. Hmm. Yes, that goes without saying. Well, in any case, I'm more than happy to discuss the political climate within these religious groups if you like. Oh my god. This is getting a little bit long-winded here. But at the same time, I don't want to be rude to Saul. Uh, sure, why not? Splendid. I'll start off with an overview of Rizia's Ruis's community. The Ruis's community seems to have a neutral opinion on your reign. It began with funding for the restoration of the Arch Sanctuary of Palavo was denied. It was viewed as a slap in the face towards supporting much needed Ruis's initiatives. The Crown's anti welfare position is also fueling rising discontent, perceived as indifference toward those outside the aristocracy. The same can also be said for the Dasnuris and Gokanis communities as well. Hmm. Hmm. In these challenging times, we must prioritize where our funds are allocated. The Crown's resources are finite, and tough decisions must be made to ensure the stability of the entire realm. While I understand the need for fiscal prudence, those who struggle to provide for their families don't see it that way. As for the Dasnuris community, overall, you're somewhere in the middle when it comes to the Dasnuris perspective. They don't they don't hold any negative sentiments towards you, but they also haven't formed particularly strong positive opinions. Withholding financial support for the Dasnuris Grand Sanctuary of Salabas has notably diminished your majesty's likability within their community. They perceive it not just as a physical, but also a symbolic representation of the decline and neglect of their religious heritage within our kingdom. Arch Sanctuary aside, overall, they express dissatisfaction with the preservation of their well being as a minority religion. Uh, let's see. Sometimes difficult decisions must be made for the greater good, even if they impact personal likability. Difficult decisions indeed. Now, as for the Gokanis community, it goes without saying that the blasphemy law continues to strain relations. But your decision to allow their crossing from Morella and the Point Darte border crossing was welcomed with open arms. Thankfully, your steadfast decision to refrain from implementing measures that would have restricted Dirty and Gokandas in our territory has played a significant role in preventing further deterioration of their community's stability. It goes without saying that it would have no doubt added to their list of grievances had it been implemented. Hmm. Their community's well being is under the careful stewardship of the Crown. I've chosen a path of benevolence, allowing their stability to flourish. Sure. Okay. and I'd advise that we keep it that way. Rizia faces enough problems as it is. Overall, the Golconda's opinion of you is low. I turned my attention away from Saul and back towards the cityscape below, the echoes of his counsel reverberating in my mind. His mentioning my vision for Rizia's religious future stirred my thoughts once more, forcing me to second guess myself and consider alternative directions. However, just as I was beginning to go down that line of thinking, the heavens seemed to respond. The thick clouds that veiled the sky suddenly dispersed, revealing a celestial alignment of the 6 stars. The planets shone in perfect harmony, a breathtaking sight that transcended the ordinary. Below, the city hushed as onlookers collectively bore witness to the extraordinary phenomenon. Saul seemed utterly captivated by the celestial display as well. My God, it's even more breathtaking than I could have ever imagined. Well, at least the stars got their act together, unlike some courtiers I know who never seem to align their opinions. A divine spectacle indeed. But Saul was too enthralled with the spectacle to hear me. It's as if the alignment was a cosmic reflection of choices, with each planet representing an option, celestial guidance for ruling a diverse kingdom. It was then that I was reminded of the vision Saul foretold of during the consecration of the king's ceremony. Fractured crowns, soldiers, and war, the lovers, swarms of birds and 3-headed monsters. Much like your visions in the catacombs, the alignment speaks to me too. Saul looked at me, his eyes appearing to convey a shared understanding. If I may inquire, where do you stand on the issue of faith-based governance? Sir? Sir, are you trying to basically get me to turn this country into the Vatican, or are you trying to make me like God Emperor? Because I can kind of get down with that. I'm probably going to have to save that for the next game. Yeah, the cheat run. Straight up God Emperor King something. I don't know. Of establishing Rizia as a holy kingdom governed by Rus's law. Embracing a secular path would mark a revolutionary inception to liberate our kingdom from the oppressive chains of religious influence, allowing the radiant dawn of true communal enlightenment to break free. I see nothing wrong with the role of religion in Rizia as it is. I don't wish to make any dramatic changes. Understandable. I will be your trusted advisor by your side as someone who fully comprehends the nuances of Ruicism to assist. Saul and I said our goodbyes before we parted ways. Stepping out the room, Titus greeted me with a brief bow. I hope everything went as expected, sir. If by went as expected you mean listening to an old man drone on about nothing, then yes. No, I'm not going to say that. Oh yes, the alignment was quite a sight to behold. You'll see. After descending the observation tower and stepping outside with Titus, I was once again greeted by the celestial phenomenon above. Titus momentarily stopped in his tracks to gaze overhead. It was then I realized this was his first time seeing it. What do you mean? Of course it's his first time seeing it. It only happens once every 200 years, sir. This is astonishing. Unless you just mean this is his first time seeing it because he didn't see it because he was protecting me. This is astonishing. I've never seen anything like it before. Yes, one could get lost in its display. Lost, but in the best possible way. It's as if the heavens themselves are telling a story. Please don't tell me a story. After absorbing the spectacle for a final moment, Titus directed me to my motorcade, and I continued my journey back to the palace. I do hope you were moved as much as I was. God. Hmm. Sure, indeed. The alignment has given me an optimistic outlook for the future, foreseeing its shaping through the alignment of faith, governance, and the celestial forces above. Titus and I continue to speak about destiny and the cosmic dance of fate as we made our way back to the palace. My God, was that long winded? That was very long winded and kind of awkward. Average living standards? Jesus. Yeah, we're just not gonna look too hard at that. I'm pretty sure it's terrible. I don't even want to see it. All right. Anti-planetary societies, million man march ends in comic failure? The first annual launch of an event meant to bring together millions of like-minded anti-planet activists fizzled out before leaving the atmosphere. Organized by the group Anti-Planetary Society against the backdrop of the alignment of the six stars, the march was held outside the Ark Sanctuary of Plavo as a protest against the commonly held belief in other planets in our universe. However, instead of the expected seven-figure turnout, they managed to gather just 7 attendees. We had such high expectations, said Dickie Gubney, president of the Fringe organization. That's an unfortunate name. You should really fight your parents. The misguided belief in the theory of planets is one of the greatest tragedies of our times. It's harming our society and indoctrinating our children's minds with fake science. Given the march's virtually non existent attendance, it begs the question, was the dismal turnout in fact a sign from the heavens? Good on the stars, man. Celestial spectacle unveiled. Alignment of the six stars captivates Rizian skies. In a celestial event that captured the hearts and imaginations of Rizians across the kingdom, the alignment of the six stars unfolded in a breathtaking display in the night sky. Citizens from all walks of life ventured outdoors to witness this rare occurrence, creating a collective sense of wonder and unity under the celestial canopy. The event, long awaited by astronomers and stargazers alike, graced the heavens with a mesmerizing alignment of six prominent stars. Spectators marveled at the celestial choreography and a cosmic dance that left onlookers in awe of the grandeur of the universe. To mark this significant moment, various viewing events were organized throughout Rizia, providing the public with telescopes, guided explanations, and a chance to share in the communal experience. Families, friends, and even strangers gathered in open spaces, fostering a sense of togetherness beneath the vast expanse of the night sky. King Ramus and Wiseman Saul Ignatius observed the event together at the Port Dresden Observatory Tower, reinforcing the cultural and symbolic importance of the celestial alignment. Their shared enthusiasm for the astronomical wonder resonated with the gathered crowds, emphasizing the connection between the kingdom's leadership and its people. As the alignment of the six stars concluded, leaving a lasting impression on those fortunate enough to witness it, Rizians carried the memory of the extraordinary event back into their daily lives. The celestial spectacle not only showcased the wonders of the cosmos, but also served as a reminder of the unity and shared experiences that bind the people of Rizia together. I think that's the longest article that we've had. Welfare partially privatized. Palace promises enhanced service quality. Yeah, sure. The palace announced it in their latest press briefing that a minority section of the Rizian welfare system will be run by the private sector in the near future, with preparations for this already underway. This major overhaul is expected to greatly enhance service quality, allowing the private sector to offer specific solutions catered to individual needs, while at the same time reducing government costs. Many business leaders have already expressed interest in taking over more duties within the healthcare and education sectors and are believed to be in active communication with the palace over future opportunities. Naturally, key elements of the welfare system will remain under oversight and control of the crown. The initial proposal came from the Rizian National Coalition, further demonstrating the crown's willingness to listen and cooperate with representatives of the Rizian population. It is a landmark decree that will surely overhaul our nation for the better. And lastly, the RPP takes the win in what marks a serious turnaround of fortunes for the Rizia National Coalition. The RPP has claimed victory in the House of Delegates selection. Many at the palace are reportedly angry at what they considered a botched election campaign by the party that failed to capture the imagination of voters. It remains to be seen what the official reaction from the king will be and whether the RNC will be allowed to continue calling itself the King's Party. It is not unthinkable that the official collaboration with the RVP will be the new path going forward. Okay. All right, that's everything there. Let's see. Funding of religious charities. Lose authority, of course. In the Rizian kingdom, faith plays a vital role in the lives of many citizens. The crown can support religious charities. The choices include backing a Ruisis, Gokandis, or Dasnuris charity, each with its own unique doctrines and influence within Rizian society. Alternatively, the government could opt out to refrain from funding any religious organizations, maintaining a stance of more secular governance. Again, I call bullshit on funding none of these. And I guess that might be one of these things where maybe if we have different situations going on, then maybe funding none will change the whether or not you use authority. I'm not sure, but I hope that's the case, because if that's just a straight authority loss, then that kind of sucks. Fun none. All right, what do we have down here? Terrador, a conversation with the Lucida Zaro. Hello, mademoiselle. Lucida and I had just concluded our visit to Terrador Air Force Base. Amid the whirlwind of activity, we barely got a chance to speak to each other. On the way back to the motorcade, she asked me to accompany her downtown. The city sustained heavy damage when Rizia reconquered it in the 1920s. Attempts had been made to revitalize it, but several bombed-out derelict buildings still stood in its center. She ordered our driver to stop in front of the tallest one. It was completely boarded up, and the remains of a fire escape dangled precariously from the fifth story. In the dimming light of the setting sun, I could just make out our mural and out an old mural paint. Ah, good God. I could just make out an old mural painted on its side. An angular 1920 style depiction of a palisade defaced almost beyond recognition. Where are you taking me, Duchess Zaro? Patience, Your Majesty. She instructed my bodyguard to wait in the car and led me up to the entrance. Drawing a key from her pocket, she unlocked the door. Flickering lights illuminated the building's decrepit interior. We walked across the uneven concrete floor, stepping around shards of glass until we came to an elevator shaft guarded by a man in a crisp blue jacket. I noticed a brooch on his lapel shaped like a pair of swords. He and Lucida exchanged nods as he led us into the elevator. We ascended to what must have been the very top floor. The elevator door opened and we stepped out. Immediately, the atmosphere transformed. We were in a chic-looking lounge, its furnishings sleek and understated. The soft strains of jazz filled the air. A handful of patrons were sitting around sipping cocktails. They paid us no mind as we crossed the room to a cozy private booth by the window. Where are we? My family bought this building when Rizia took back the Palais Administrative District. We've been using it as a members club of sorts. She smiled ruefully. Until we're ready to go public, this is the closest we can get to a proper date. Not many women would be so bold. I love that about you. I don't want to live life stewing over the opportunities I missed. A bow-tied server approached our booth to take our orders. Let's see. I'll try the Terrador tea. Lucida nodded approvingly. Sounds good. I'll have the same. The server bowed and left to fetch our drinks. While we were waiting, Lucida gestured out the window. Beyond the twinkling lights of downtown Terrador, a line of steadily flashing beacons marked the border wall between Rizia and Palais. There it is, our new business partner. Maybe it won't take a war for Palais to reunite with Rizia. We can find an economic solution. As long as Lesbia is in the picture, it won't be easy. Her brow furrowed. I still think avoiding conflict with Palais was the correct strategy. Of course, not everyone in Rizia feels the same way. Hmm. Hmm. My uncle will get over it. I don't only mean him. Just then, the server returned with our drinks. He carefully placed our Terrador teas on a table. They were served in gold-plated mugs. We took our beverages and raised them. Hmm. To us. She looked me in the eye as our glasses clinked. To us. Still holding my gaze, she took a slow, reflective sip. While we're here, I wanted to thank you for everything you've done for House of Zaro over the past years. No need to thank me. Your house and mine share a special bond. Not every king would see the wisdom in honoring it. I confess there's a few holdouts who wish the Palais gas dispute had ended with an annexation. She made a face. I personally wish you had made a larger commitment to Rizia's national defense than your predecessor, but there's still time. Simply put, my family likes order, and they like monarchs who are invested in maintaining it. Hmm. Perhaps I should have been born a Zaro. She smiled slyly. Perhaps one day you'll join the family. I've heard rumors that you're trying to make changes to the Rizian government. My family is prepared to back you as long as you don't go too far. Hmm. What do you mean too far? Given the citizenry, a modicum of power can help prevent another uprising. Giving them too much will lead to instability on a mass scale. She laughed lightly. During the War of Rizian Succession, my ancestor Anna drew up plans for a monarcho-military system of government. Rizia ruled by both a king and the army. Can you imagine? Huh. So is this going to be one of the options that I can get as far as the decree? I can, and it chills me to the bone. We'll never know whether it would have worked. You should know that my father is beginning to make a recovery. Once he rejoins the council, you should ask him about his opinions on the subject. He'll be more of a help than a hindrance. That's amazing news. I'm looking forward to working with him. The feeling is mutual, I'm sure. She shook her head. What am I even doing, bringing all this up? We're here to relax. You haven't even touched your drink. Yeah, while we're here, I think we should stop seeing each other. Sip your drink. I reached for the glass on the table and took a sip. It was a warming mix of imported Swedish whiskey, honey, cinnamon, and cloves. Hmm. 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 Liquid courage, just what I needed. For what? To face another day. You don't need alcohol for that. Remember, Your Majesty, you're not alone. Hmm. Hmm. I love that I can speak with you so openly. I'd love it even more if we found a more intimate venue to continue this conversation. She flashed me a knowing smile. Not to be presumptuous, but I have a pass to the VIP suite, and I happen to know it isn't occupied. Hmm. You read my mind. You're an open book, Your Majesty. She slipped out of the booth. Don't worry about paying for the drinks. They're on the house. With a wink, she headed past the bar down a darkened corridor. Leaving my unfinished drink on the table, I followed close behind. Okay, what do we have next? King visits Terrador Air Base. Together with Duchess Zaro, King Ramus has taken a tour of the Terrador Air Force Base, inspecting the state of Rizia's air forces in the process and meeting with some of Rizia's most decorated pilots. Yeah, exactly what I was inspecting, excuse me. Let's see, Duchy of Palais, official signing of the Oris Agreement. Our convoy drove steadily across the cobbled streets of Old Town Palais. It was my second visit to Palais since becoming King of Rizia, but the atmosphere this time was way more cordial and cheerful. Instead, I was here to finalize our deal with Duke Reinhardt, concerning ceding our rights to Oris, as well as finalizing our deal with Prime Minister Alvarez. And we would also be inaugurating the opening of the pipeline, which will be operational after today. I want to applaud you again, Your Majesty, for your decisive actions that led to a successful resolution. Thank you, Mr. Escobar. Upon our arrival to Castle Reinhardt, we were greeted by the smiling faces of the Palladian and Lesbian delegation, as well as Duke Reinhardt, who waited at the front gates. After exchanging pleasantries, we were led inside as the light of the cameras blinded us. We took our seats around a large table along the delegates from each Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Your Majesty, welcome to Palais. It is delightful to have you here with us again. Today is not just about signing a deal, it's about laying the foundation for enduring cooperation and mutual benefit between Palais and Rizia. It is a pleasure to welcome you again. It is a pleasure to be here under such promising circumstances. This deal will mark a new chapter for both of our nations. I must also thank the Rizian delegates. They were instrumental in reaching an agreement. The delegates bowed their heads. Before we start the ceremony, we'll quickly finalize all the official business. So, he gestured at the assistants in the room, and they quickly placed enormous files on the table. Rizia has agreed to make the AN's resolution official, acknowledging that Palais owns the rights to the Oris field. And Palais agreed to give Les Power shared control over the field. Les Power will be given the contract to handle the extraction and transportation of Palladian gas. The assistants placed all the necessary papers in front of us to sign. Sign the papers. I signed the papers. After me, the documents were also passed to Prime Minister Alvarez. As soon as he finished signing, the room broke into a long applause. To our future partners, when the pipeline finishes, Palladian gas will help build both Rizian and Lesbian industries. After exchanging congratulations, we were led outside where the ceremony would take place in front of the press. As soon as we stepped onto the stage, the applause of the crowd blended with loud music from the speakers and the sound of pictures being taken, overwhelming me for a few seconds. We stood in front of a massive board with an illustrated map of the Antician Sea, depicting the Oris field as a bridge that connects Palais, Rizia, and Lesbia. The stage itself was an outlandish construct with a towering replica of a drilling rig with a huge logo of Les Power on it, floating over a pool of water. Made to look like a sophisticated machine with oversized dials, levers, and flashing lights, it was less a piece of industrial equipment and more a prop from a science fiction movie. Laurento leaned in and whispered, "Certainly didn't expect this." Well, a deal this important deserves a spectacle. I can't debate that. He pointed at a mock rig surrounding the stage. They were a series of artificial geysers, engineered to spout water and colored lights at timed intervals, simulating the dramatic discovery of natural gas. The geysers were choreographed to erupt in unison with the crescendo of the music. Organizing this must have costed as much as the drilling facility itself. As the music came to an end and the applause subsided, I took a clearer look at the crowd that was gathered. People in their best formal attire were standing somewhat awkwardly amidst this bizarre setting. They casted amused glances at the entertainers who mingled among them. Performers dressed as engineers and geologists, complete with exaggeratingly large yellow helmets. Prime Minister Alvarez then took the microphone and started explaining the importance of Oris and the deal that was finalized. After a brief introduction, he gave the microphone to Duke Reinhardt. And now I invite our partner, King Ramos. I took the microphone amidst the applause. Duke of Palais, my friend Axel Reinhardt, as well as Prime Minister of Lesbia, Mr. Alvarez, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for reaching a mutual understanding. Today, we are taking part in a truly signal event that testifies to the effectiveness of our country's cooperation in accomplishing the most ambitious project. In the name of friendship and future cooperation, Rizia transferred all claims of Oris to the Grand Duchy of Palais. This field will hopefully have many benefits not only to Palais and its people, but also for its neighbors and the region as a whole. I'm certain that in the future, Rizia and Palais will implement many more mutually beneficial joint projects, both in energy and in other fields. Before I finish, I would like to highlight the importance of Palaesian-Rizian friendship for Southern Marcopa. This will mark the beginning of a new era for cooperation in Southern Marcopa. I would like Duke Reinhardt to know how pleased we are to have taken the initiative together. Now, let the inauguration of the Oris drilling rig begin. Godspeed. The crowd roared in a huge applause. I gave the microphone back to Duke Reinhardt. After giving a closing speech, we shook hands on the stage as loud music started to be blasted from the speakers again. As the main event approached, a gigantic faux control panel was wheeled onto the stage. The panel, festooned with blinking lights and oversized buttons, was set for the ceremonial activation of the gas field. Together with Duke Reinhardt, we were guided towards the panel and placed our hands on it, posing at the cameras as we did so. We then pressed the buttons, and the mock rig came to life with a series of industrial sounds. The sound of the music swelled, and the geysers went off in dramatic display, leaving the area in smoke and fog. After a few more minutes of posing to the cameras, we finally left the stage. In the car, I glanced over at the Par Oris plaque, a celebratory gift from the Rizian Oil and Gas Corporation, sitting snugly on the seat next to me. I couldn't help but feel relieved when we were out of Palais. All right, so that oil field thingy is now done. And we got the little Rizian oil and gas. Serves as a source of pride, a symbol for the nation's self-sufficiency and independence. This industrial yet elegant-looking plaque dedicated to the Oris gas field serves as a constant reminder of the path walked to achieve this goal. Okay. All right, what else do we have? Sovereign Memorial Commemoration, the National Mausoleum, Port Drazen. The National Mausoleum, high in the hills above Port Drazen, embraced me with its stately presence. I was here for the annual Sovereign Memorial Commemoration, a ceremony honoring the former monarchs of Rizia. Having left Hugo in charge of overseeing the event, I had arrived early before the formal ceremony commenced to have a moment to myself. Adorned with statues and inscriptions of monarchs from eras long past, the mausoleum stood as witness to the enduring legacy of Rizia. In its hushed corridors, I sought solace, not as a king, but as a man burdened by the echoes of history. I had also come to honor the memory of my late wife, Lena, whose resting place could be found within these hallowed grounds as well. Vina, of course, was by my side, She was holding a bouquet. Feels like we were just here. I miss her so much. Hmm. Hmm. It does feel like we were just here, doesn't it? Your mother's presence is timeless, and it's only right that we revisit this place. Timeless maybe, but sometimes it feels like memories are slipping away, and revisiting only makes the ache worse. It was my own pleading that steered us into that storm. We should have never set foot on that boat. Hmm. 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 You were a child. I was on that boat too, and I could have saved her life. Your sorrow mirrors mine. It's hard not to wonder, what if? Hmm. Uh, let's see. It could have been worse. I could have lost you as well. I feel like that's not a great thing to say. I mean, on the one hand, I mean, I could have lost my daughter as well, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel a little icky about that. It may be difficult to accept, but your mother's passing was a part of life. We can't always comprehend the reasons behind such events, but it's important to find strength in the memories and support each other through these challenging times. And I don't want to, I almost don't want to say that, but I feel like that's the best option out of these three. Mm, I guess I'll say this. I don't like the way that's worded. I wish it was worded slightly different, but yeah, I'll go ahead with that. It could have been worse. I could have lost you as well. You were never in danger of losing me, Father. I can take care of myself. It wasn't long before we reached her mother's final resting place. Venus set the bouquet in a marble vase next to the sarcophagus. I gathered these roses from the royal garden. They're the absolute best. We shared a quiet moment without words. I stared at the grave, allowing memories of Lena and of the boat accident to flood my mind. I was on the verge of becoming lost in thought when a voice called to me from behind. Well, there you are. Hmm. Well, fancy meeting you here. She hadn't attended a sovereign memorial commemoration since father's passing. At my age, surprises are as rare as non-gray hairs. Don't act as though my presence is some extraordinary revelation. And for the record, I can still navigate these halls without assistance, thank you very much. Vina, it's good to see you. You're looking as lovely as ever. You too. Vina went to her and they exchanged a brief embrace. We'll catch up later. I'm meeting Manus for a walk before the ceremony. Hmm. He didn't feel like joining you here? Hmm. Yeah, she probably would have hated to see her daughter dating a Saison. Hmm. I understand. He's quite busy now that he's majority speaker. Busy with what, dear? You know your father always called his party a zoo full of paper tigers. Her eyes swept across the room, coming to rest on Lena's grave. Forgive my lack of decorum. I should treat this day with the gravity it deserves. Gradually, she drew near, her eyes conveying unexpressed sentiments. She reached out and took Venus' hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. She was an extraordinary woman, your mother. I'd even go as far as to say she was like a daughter to me. I wish I'd known her as well as you did. Hmm. Lena won every person she met, even prickly queen consorts. Ha! I confess it took me a while to get over my own prejudices about Rumbergian nobles. But it's true, I did grow to love her dearly. She smiled in fond recollection. I remember the exact moment my feelings towards her changed. It was right after the Civil War broke out in Wayland. You two were at Palais Resna for dinner, and Lena and I absconded for tea after you and your father got into another one of your roles. Up to that point, I was adamant that Rizia should accept as few Wessex refugees as possible. But as I spoke with your late wife about the situation, she made such a convincing case for empathy and kindness that I was literally moved to tears. She had this way of seeing past politics straight to the heart of the matter. The next day, I persuaded Valero to open our borders. There were tears in Vina's eyes. That's beautiful. I had no idea. Hmm. That's rude. Um, I never knew. So many lives were saved thanks to that one conversation. Meanwhile, I'm bombing refugees. If only she was around to talk to Victor Smolik now. I would be afraid of that. I know she would have been proud of the person you've become, Vina. Despite Vina's attempts to conceal her emotions, the subtle quiver in her lips and a deep sigh betrayed her inner turmoil. Please excuse me. Vina hurried out of the room before anyone could respond. Losing a parent is hard, especially when they love you as much as Vina's mother loved her. Speaking of love, I know you've approved of Manus and Vina, and I support passion, but it might not be as digestible for the rest of the house. Either way, it needs to happen sooner than later if our family is to secure its place on the throne. But I'm getting sidetracked. In case you're wondering, which I know you are, I'm here to finally pay your father a visit after finding this. My mother reached into her handbag and held up a weathered envelope. Take the envelope? I took the envelope from her. A love letter from your father, the first one he ever wrote, and I want to honor him by giving it back. Really? What does it say? She took the letter back. That's between your father and me. Come, let us honor him together. My mother left the room and I followed behind. We made our way down the great hall past the resting places of the great leaders and some not so great who came before me. It wasn't long before the light from the eternal flame, a single torch placed at the late king's sarcophagus, symbolizing a monarch's enduring reign, guided us the rest of the way. As we neared, my mother's pace slowed as if an overwhelming wave of memories pressed upon her. You all right? Yes, never been better. The flame's flickering glow cast dancing shadows on the path. We stopped just before we reached my father's stone encasing. There you are. We both fell silent. In the royal tradition, deceased kings were initially entombed here. However, upon the passing of the succeeding monarch, a solemn ritual was observed, relocating the late king to rest alongside their forebears. If you don't mind, I'd like to say a few words to your father. Hmm. I'll give you some privacy. I gave her some space to allow for a moment between the two of them. She spoke to him in a hushed whisper, for much longer than I expected. Whatever she had to say was evidently meaningful, perhaps something she had been holding back, especially considering their strained relationship for most of his life. When she was finished, she took out the love letter and placed it on the lid of the sarcophagus. I took this as my cue to return. May it rest with him, carrying the memories of a cherished connection and the legacy he left behind. Hmm. For better or worse, his legacy will live on. It's a reminder that our actions reverberate through time, Something you'd be wise to consider in the decisions you make, my son. Hmm. I'm reminded to choose our path with care. Yes, because our name carries weight, son. It's not just the actions, it's how you carry the responsibility that defines the legacy. Hmm. I'll ensure the name stands strong, even if it means shouldering the weight alone. Your decisions impact more than just your destiny. They leave a mark on our family's history. Hmm. I'll take pride in the Taurus name, and I'm committed to upholding the values that define our family's rich heritage. It warms my heart to hear it. The history of this noble lineage provides us with strength in the darkest of times. And rest assured, the road ahead is filled with obstacles that we, as Tauruses, will overcome together. You have the power to redefine what it means to bear that name. Sometimes the most profound responsibilities are the ones we inherit, not by choice, but by destiny. Hmm. Uh, sure, destiny or not, I'll strive to leave a legacy that stands apart from the mistakes of my father. Hmm. Bringing zeal back into the fold will rectify his mistake of giving it away so freely. He chose the lesser of two. He chose the lesser or two evils, and in doing so, we retained the throne. The only mistake would have been inaction. You may very well be right, but it doesn't make reclaiming it any easier. No, I suppose not. But we must do what must be done to preserve our territorial integrity, not to mention our family name, which I'm sorry to say are slowly being chipped away. I fear that if we continue on this trajectory, there might be nothing substantial remaining. Hmm. My reforms are for the good of the country. If anything, our concessions will make our monarchy stronger. We need to get with the times. If we don't evolve, we'll be left in the dust like all other monarchies that have gone extinct. I'd say your policies imply that extinction is your goal. I'm sure you mean well, but these reforms come with great risk and sets a dangerous precedent. Speaking of risk, I've heard whispers about your escapades with House of Zaro, a family harboring their own ambitions regarding the throne, or so the rumors say. Hmm. Rumors are as fleeting as sunlight dancing on water. Your poetic language may dance around the truth, but remember, even the most eloquent words can't hide the substance that lies beneath. It was then we heard the far distant rings of the bells of the Ark Sanctuary of Zeba begin to chime. It's time for the ceremony to begin. Yes, we wouldn't want to be late. We're already late, but as king, that's your prerogative. Before departing, I cast a final glance at Father's resting place, and a rush of memories flooded my mind. Hmm. Hmm. Very well. Before we depart, understand this. In shaping my legacy, I choose my own course, free from the expectations of a faded form. Regarding Father's views on the choices I've made, they hold no sway over me. I understand. For what it's worth, as hard as it may be to believe, he would have been proud of you no matter what. Mother went on ahead of me while I remained behind to have one final moment with Father. Once alone, I reached into my inner jacket pocket and took out an envelope. The last letter my father ever wrote to me. Find your own way, my son, and may your footsteps leave imprints unknown to the echoes of my yesterdays. His final words. Placed the letter into the fire. Having held onto it long enough, I fed the letter to the flames and watched it burn until there was nothing left. I departed soon afterwards, leaving my father in his solitude. Okay, so that is the end of this chapter, and then we'll be moving on to the next. We have one news article, Resilience Reigns. Former Queen's surprise attendance elevates Sovereign Memorial Commemoration. In a flawless execution of the annual Sovereign Memorial Commemoration, Rizia paid tribute to its late monarchs in a poignant ceremony. The event unfolded seamlessly with a notable and positive surprise, the presence of the former Queen Estela Torres. Her attendance marked the first visit since the passing of her late husband, the king. This unexpected gesture highlights her strength and resilience, considering the enduring connection they shared over the years. The commemoration not only honored the legacies of past rulers, but also underscored the significance of unity and remembrance in the kingdom's history. On to the next. Oh, God. The art of war. Let's not. Can we not? Okay, we got +3 with energy. Thank God. And our next event is the House of Delegates visit. But we will do that in the next episode. So again, I think I don't know how close we are getting to the end, but I think we're getting somewhat close because I believe we're in the 3rd chapter now. So yeah, we're steadily moving along, and hopefully we'll go ahead and wrap this up soon because I cannot wait. I'm telling you that the amount of I want to cheat so bad is just infuriatingly just a lot. I'm going to look at the files when I get a chance so I can see what all I can edit, because I know I can edit the budget, authority, and all that such. But I wonder if I can edit the per turn, how much it gives me per turn. And I also wonder if the relations can be edited with different countries and how that will work out. I don't know. I don't think there was such a stat in the previous game, well, in the main game. So this is going to be kind of interesting to kind of poke through. I'll wait till the end of everything to do that. But yeah, I am definitely just chomping at the bit to turn around and just dive into this and just really go ahead and cheat so much to see what absurd stuff I can pull off. I'm gonna have the most ridiculous military and everything else in between. And like I said, when I get to the end, I will turn around and I will put up a poll to see what we will be doing going forward. If you would like to see that playthrough, I'll go ahead and of course post it. I don't know how I would do the videos per se, because I'm pretty sure there would be a lot I would have to cut out just because, I mean, there's not a whole lot to do besides, going over new stuff. But yeah, I mean, of course, if that's wanted, then I can post that. If you don't want to, if people don't want to see me, of course, cheat my ass off, which I love doing. Of course, there's other things that we can turn around and explore. There's also, of course, the like a monarchist playthrough. I've seen a couple comments about having a pure monarchist playthrough, a monarchist run where I'm just going Louis the 14th on everybody, saying I am the state, and it's probably going to keep me in the same bankrupt spot that I was in before. And of course, trying to get the Palais district and everything else that I possibly can. But yeah, again, I will go ahead and, look into that as soon as we get to the end. But for now, keep that in mind. Keep any ideas you have in mind, and of course, leave them in the comment section, and I will, of course, get to it as soon as I can. But anywho, if you like the video, like the video. If you'd like to see more content like this, subscribe. I have a lot of things on the channel, and I will have many other things in the future. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, again, please feel free to leave it in the comment section, and I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I am messing up my outro. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.